is your price that you would have to get in order to trade Mike Vrabel to New England? This was Ian Rappaport just a few minutes ago.
We were also watching the status of Mike Vrabel, the Tennessee Titans head coach. He's going to meet with ownership at some point, probably today. And we'll see what this means about his future. There's going to be some hard questions. There's going to be some hard discussions. We do not know how it is going to end. I think it's fair to say it is uncertain whether or not Vrabel will be the head coach going forward.
That being said, what's your price?
My price, I got to get a 1. And if I can get 2 2s, I'll take that also. But if I can get a 1, 2, and a 3, or if I can get 2 1s, that would suffice me.
Yeah, our good friend Rhett Bryan, by the way, did a great job giving us a little bit of stuff to go by for trades in the past. And I'm going to allude to a couple of these. But right now, the New England Patriots have 7 picks in this upcoming 2024 NFL draft. And that first-round pick is a number 3. And I agree with you, Ramon. I want to see if you're getting one of the hottest and I know you guys right now, in terms of what's happened last 2 seasons, you might not agree with this, but he is still a hot commodity, I feel like, on the market if he were to be on the market. And this is a coach that if you're going to be Amy Adams Strunk and trade him away, you're going to want to get the most that you can get for that, because that's the reason why you're trading him, right? I mean, I feel like she still at the beginning of the year had hope that they could make this thing work with Rand and Mike Vrabel. Now it might be just the opportunity to get something in return, because the more draft capital you get, the better your team could possibly be. So I say a first and a third. And maybe, that's a lot to ask for. But like I was saying, Rhett gave us this kind of outline in terms of what trades have been in the past. And the most recent one involved Sean Payton, as we all know. And the compensation for him last year was the Denver Broncos trade a first and a third round pick to the New Orleans Saints. So that was the most recent one. And then you go back to 2019, Bruce Arians, Buccaneers traded a 6th-round pick to Arizona. That's not much, right? And that resulted, obviously, in a Super Bowl in his second season?
Yeah.
I mean,
that one was different because he was the interim.
Right.
And then earned a head coaching opportunity from being an interim head coach.
Right. And then in 2002, John Gruden, which is no longer, or he's just not around anymore, Tampa Bay Buccaneers traded 2 first-round picks and $8 million to the Oakland Raiders. And we all know how that worked out in 2002. Gruden won the Super Bowl in his first season, leading the Bucs to that. So,
to me, there's an asking price and then there's a what I would take. The asking price is 2 first-round picks. However, Jeremy, the F&M Bank chat on YouTube, just said this, and he's 100% right. There is a 0% chance New England is trading the number 3 pick. 0. It's just not going to happen. The only way, I'll say, all right, 0.1. The only way they trade the number 3 pick is if they somehow have the number 1 or 2 pick. And if Washington trades for Bill Belichick and Washington sends the number 2 pick. But again, all of these franchises are QB-needy franchises. The Patriots are not going to give up their opportunity to draft Jaden Daniels, Drake May, or Caleb Williams in order to get a head coach. So at that point, you got to get a little creative. If one of the first-round picks isn't coming this year, then there needs to definitely be a first round next year coming from New England in order to make this work, which then means the price changes immediately. At that point, I want a 2nd and a 4th this year and a 1st next year. The Sean Payton thing is the floor to me. And you could make the argument, well, why does Mike Vrabel deserve a higher price than Sean Payton? Sean Payton's won a Super Bowl. Sean Payton was not a sitting head coach at the time of when that trade was made. So if I'm Amy Adams Strunk, I'm telling Robert Kraft, you are making me start a coaching search by doing this. Therefore, the price is higher. The New Orleans Saints already had Dennis Allen at the time Sean Payton was traded to Denver. So the cost of doing business and the cost of starting a coaching search wasn't a part of it. It was just, hey, this is a guy we still have under contract. You have to trade to us, obviously, to get him. But we already have a guy, so we're good. As good as you can be with Dennis Allen as your head coach, which, yikes. I don't know if he's going to be there much longer either. But that being said, I think 2 firsts is the ask. I think you do it for a first, a second, and a fourth. I'd even ask for a first, a second, and a third before you could get to that point. Is there even a scenario where you take New England's next 2 firsts and settle for something like just a third this year? To me, that's what Amy Adams-Strunk has to look at in this. If you want to kickstart a rebuild and be a contender in 2024 and surround your young quarterback with a left tackle and a wide receiver immediately next year, that is your best way to do it, is take your $100 million you have in free agency, give or take. Obviously, that's an estimation.
Yeah.
And take 2 first-round picks and go shopping.
Yeah. There's a lot of conversation about what we're discussing, of course, and it's all fascinating because we're all getting everything in live time when it comes down to Vrabel in the trade or him staying here. And, of course, the big send-off that Derek and Ryan Tannehill had yesterday, too. The fact that we've heard that the meetings haven't happened yet or have happened, the fact that we're hearing conversation that Vrabel is considering, will be open for a trade if it's in his favor and the team favor, I think something has to play with that. Everything can't be false when it comes down to it now. And here's the other thing, too. It's not just folks that are outside. It's not Boston anymore. It's not just them anymore. And, of course, with it being an Athletic insider, who works for the Athletic now?
Diana Rossini.
All right, then. And if y'all have trusted her with these reports, and right now Jordan Schultz is saying from an an Athletic insider, we know where that's coming from. At least we assume we know where it's coming from.
Schultz, I don't know, but Diana Rossini and her relationship within the organization and her relationship with Mike Vrabel is well documented.
But it was him that said it was a Athletic insider that said it.
Jordan Schultz is Bleacher Report. That has
Bleacher
nothing to do
Report,
with the
Bleacher
Athletic.
Report. Well, either
Those are
way,
separate entities. Yeah.
We're getting the same conversation all across the board. And at some point, information does leak out. At some point, somebody does get a little chatty about what's happening inside that building. There are resources. There are so many people inside NFL buildings and NBA buildings that want to be the one to give you information about this type of stuff. I don't think this one is falling on deaf ears anymore. And everybody, Kayla, you said what was not available today that usually is as far as the press is concerned?
There's not a Mike Vrabel presser today, as we know. Locker room cleanouts at 10:15.
There's some motion going on. That's what I would take.
And I'll add to that, too. Even if we can say that this is all hearsay or whatever, but, I mean, this is now picked up to the point where Ian Rappaport is reporting that there's some hard conversations that are going to be had today in what they are supposed to be meeting. Even if they meet, and at this point, I feel like there's so much out there. Like, I don't know if Amy would want him back here at this point anyway. If this is all the talk that he wants to go to New England and this is his dream job, and I don't know if that is all true at all, but this is all out there right now. What is the conversation going to be like in that room? Like, do you really want to be here, Mike? If so, this is what we need from you. Maybe you need to fire this guy and this guy. Mike Vrabel, I'm not firing this guy and this guy. Okay, then we're going to trade. I mean, there's so many moving parts, you guys. It's almost like there's no definite right now answer of what's going to happen, because I feel like this could take a few days to work out exactly what is going to happen and how it's going to happen, how the dominoes are actually going to fall. It's not just a simple, okay, we're letting you go, we're trading you.
Puka in the F&M Bank chat says, Pats may get extra picks by trading Belichick. Well, look at the 2 teams, though, that have been linked most closely to Belichick. The Atlanta Falcons, who pick right after the Titans at number 8 in the draft, and the Washington Commanders, who pick number 2. Both of those teams are likely drafting a quarterback with that pick. Why would either of those teams trade their future quarterback to get Bill Belichick?
Yeah.
So then Bill Belichick and the Patriots, like, that camp then doesn't have a pick to trade here other than number 3 overall. So all 3 of these teams that are in this square of Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, and open coaching positions, or maybe not open coaching positions. We know Washington and Atlanta are open. Those 2 teams have no incentive to trade their high first-round pick in 2024. To me, if you are getting a first-round pick from any of those teams, it's going to be in 2025.
To your point, Washington Commanders have the number 2 overall pick, as you just said, but they have 2 2s, 2 3s, 4, 5, 6, and 7. They got 2 2s and 2 3s.
I think the wild card is, are any of those teams going to be in the Russell Wilson sweepstakes and willing to make that move? Because then maybe they are willing to give up their top 10 pick.
And then there's that.
Atlanta has been the team that has been speculated the most for Russell Wilson, but I have a hard time seeing a team be linked heavily to a player when a team doesn't have a head coach. That's just me.
Yeah. I will side with you on the fact if either one of those teams giving up their 2 and their 3s, that's really putting themselves behind the 8 ball when it comes down to that conversation of why we're trading a coach. Next year's one maybe, or maybe some of these 2 and 3s this year is where you start cooking right now. The Titans, I think, need a 1.
Right. You mean the 2s and 3s you gave up to get Will Levis?
My man, see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You get them right back. This is just shuffling of the cards to the way this business goes.
615-737-1045. Kyle in Springfield next up on the phone lines. Hey, Kyle.
Morning, y'all.
Morning.
I got a realistic ceiling, and then I got a ridiculous ceiling. No, I'll get a laugh out, y'all. I'd say realistic ceiling would be, I'd love to get a 1 this year, but I'd say 2, 3 this year, and then a 1, 2, 3 next year would be extra realistic ceiling. And then the ridiculous season would be a Ricky Williams trade. Give us all of them.
Screw them picks.
All of them.
Yeah, all
Thank you,
of
Kyle.
them. Thank you.
Appreciate the call. Daniel on Twitter says, what about Belichick, next year's 1 and this year's 2? I am rescinding any trade that involves Bill Belichick. I have no interest in Bill Belichick being the head coach of the Titans.
You want to change something. That's not the way to do it.
I have zero interest in that.
That's not going to work.
Did they also didn't they draft UT Chats center last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Cole Strange.
Do you get Cole Strange as a part of this?
Oh, in a player.
What are we talking about? Player and a coach?
Think about that,
and
man.
then, of course, Brewer's off. I mean, he's out. I mean, he's a free agent this year.
I'd take Gerard Mayo as a coach here, as an assistant. Can we trade assistants
Send over
too?
Gerard Mayo.
Legitimately, like, what are we? Well, if that's the case, then, I mean, Shane's not here. If Vrabel's gone, how many times have the DC and OC stayed back if the coach is gone?
I don't think most of the staff is here.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's
Well, none of the staff is back. Like,
right. Because
you might retain position coaches, maybe, but yeah.
maybe.
blow it up. If you're going to blow it up, it looks like it's about to happen.
And any time that we've had
Goodness.
these type of conversations with you two and listeners too, has it ever felt more real?
Mm-mm.
Than
This
what-
is real.
Compared to what?
Any time in Titans history, like with this.
I mean, yeah, like the Ken Wisenhunt stuff, you knew writing was on the wall with that. And I mean, too, even with Mike Mularkey, this is what I think back to is the Mularkey thing. Amy Adams Strunk had given a vote of confidence publicly for Mike Mularkey and then turned around and let him go.
But that's because
After
he
winning a playoff
wasn't going to let go of court. That was very documented that he was not going to let go of coaches. He was very loyal, and Amy was like, if you're not going to, then you're gone.
Right.
And he was.
That's what this is more like to me is Mularkey, because the Titans could be making a decision that many NFL teams would not be making right now in finding a suitor for Mike Vrabel.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out who the Patriots picks are this year. All of them, that is. I'll find that in a minute.
Chris in Memphis.
7 they have.
Next up, 615-737-1045. What's up, Chris?
Hey, good morning. I'm a frequent listener, first-time caller. I would probably say this. Even though there is the possibility of him going to New England, and you definitely try to get the most out of him, which I think would be I would say either a pick swap and a first next year, or you at least get a first next year, a 2 and a 3. But my question would be, what if the Patriots are not the only team that'd be interested in trading for Vrabel? I mean, the Chargers could be looking, like talking about the Commanders, or I don't know what's going to happen. Atlanta, too, could be a possibility. So I think if that's the case, if another team tries to get in the race, that could definitely up the ante quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the sentimental aspect of Robert Kraft's relationship with Mike Vrabel and him being a former Patriot means that they're going to pay more than any other team would for him.
For as far as you guys from going from 7 to 3 suffice this year's switch?
If they swapped firsts, then that's interesting to me.
If they swapped first, give them a 3 and a 4 and a 1 next year. Now we're cooking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now, New England has a number 3 overall pick. They got 34, 68. Those are the only ones I'm interested in. Well, 34, 68, and 103. Those are the other 3 I'm interested in. How much can they negotiate? The one with the most negotiating power is Washington. And that's where Bill Belichick to Washington Commanders make a whole lot of sense. They can get more capital, not have to give up the 3 this year and just send them down here to Tennessee if we're talking about trading Vrabel. We're talking about trading Vrabel.
Which I think there's enough out there to say that this is possibly happening at this point.
It's closer to happening than
It's
not.
not just smoke.
But even at this point, how do you even go back and say, "No, Coach, my bad"?
That's what I'm saying, Ramon.
How do you put the toothpaste back in the tube?
Exactly.
At this point.
I mean, these conversations, you talk about hard conversations, this is about as hard as you get. Where does everybody really want this organization to be moving forward? Does Mike Vrabel even care to be here? I mean, these are all questions.
I think he cares to be here.
On the wall.
Yeah, I think he cares to be here.
That.
But I think it's business at the end of the day. And again, the stuff that we're talking about, it feels to me that this isn't a Rand conversation. This isn't a Vrabel conversation. This is upper management almost because nobody's had a meeting.
This is Amy's decision.
What happened, though, from Amy in the collaboration at the start of the season?
I think Rand meant that. I think they both meant that.
Mm-hmm.
This year changed something.
They went 6-11.
Yeah. I think they meant it. And again, Rand's job is to do what? Generally manage the players on this roster.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Giardi, who covers the New England Patriots for the Boston Sports Journal, just tweeted this 2 minutes ago. And it is relevant to even consider if there is an opening in New England. Tweets word for word here. I'll read this whole thing. I can't stress enough how in the dark staffers feel in Foxborough right now. Mike Giardi writes, they're operating as they would under normal circumstances, but have a cloud of uncertainty hanging over their heads. A number of coaches are in the final year of their contracts, so between that and Belichick's situation, don't know if they should be shipping off resumes and getting boxes to clean out offices, or if it's time to hunker down for one last chance to fix this. So it appears a decision has not been given to staffers in New England quite yet, which is obviously the first domino that needs to fall. 615-737-1045. Kayla is off to Titans Open locker room. We will hear a lot of that tomorrow.
We'll see what the vibe's over there.
Mm-hmm.
Woo!